Mars Hottentot, and this is Broken Music, the podcast about broken music. What the hell is broken music? Broken music is a lot of things. It could be a band of enthusiastic kids with more desire than talent, a burning need so great they soldier on into the musical abyss, committing to record audio atrocities so profound they live on while their better talented peers fade into their makers' basements. It could be an aging artist or band, teetering over the hill of relevance, grasping hold the raging locomotive of the zeitgeist, only to have their skulls cracked like coconuts by the wheels of not really getting it. It could be an iconoclast whose aesthetic choices forever keep them within the frozen tundra of the underground, beyond the gates of the glittering city of mainstream acceptance. For those about to starve... Okay, gang, today's episode is about Black Flag and their 2013 return, so to speak, in What The. If you know me, you know I'm a huge Black Flag fan. I've always been a fan. They basically changed my life. When I was a teenager, I was in a group home. I was not doing too well, and for some reason I thought rock music was going to save my life. At the time that my war came into my sphere, I was trying to be a good little, what I would call a twiddle wizard. I was trying to play like Steve Vai, that type of thing, and not doing a really good job. I got my war from a friend at school. One side was my war, the other side was Legacy of Brutality by the Misfits. And it changed my life. Hearing a band play that was way more aggressive than any of the heavy metal that I had been listening to. They were raw. Their skill level wasn't that much better than mine, or at least that's how I perceived it at the time. And musically or lyrically, they were definitely more something I could relate to. I couldn't relate to, the things that heavy metal artists were talking about. But the kind of concerns that Greg and Henry were talking about seemed very real. And it just, like I said, it changed my life. So it brings me no pleasure to say that I want to love this record. I really do. For all that, Greg Ginn's problems that he's had and whatnot, I wanted to love this record, but it's a broken piece of music. So that's what we're going to be getting into. With me here, as always, is VHS. VHS, hello.
Hello.
Now, you like Black Flag. You come from punk rock, right?
Yes. So for me, as a teenager, I grew up on Nirvana.
I never really got very much into grunge.
And Kurt Cobain would often describe their sound as the Bay City Rollers being molested by Black Flag and Black Sabbath.
Yeah,
so I thought, I need to get into this band Black Flag and Black Sabbath. Never got into the Bay City Rollers, but I did check out Black Flag because of that.
Nice. Okay, again, Black Flag changed my life, and one of the biggest parts about it was Greg Ginn's guitar playing. His riffs are pretty cranky, but those solos are nuts. They sound like he's falling down the stairs while he's trying to play, and it's just this crazy mix of punk aggression, free jazz, psychedelic rock. It's a mess, and I love it. And to be honest, it's probably to blame for my love of broken music. So, again, there are things about this record that work, and I think that when Greg breaks free and starts doing solos, it's some of the craziest shit he's ever done. I wish the rest of the record were up to that task. Also, on top of all this, it's just not really super interesting. Like, some of the records we're going to be talking about are they're broken in different ways. There's records that we're going to be talking about that are bad. There's records that we are going to be talking about that are very forward-thinking. And then there's records that we're going to be talking about that are just plain weird. But I still like them. I really feel like this is a bad record, but it's not extraordinarily bad, that it's fun. Like we did Celtic Frost Coal Lake last week, and to me that's a fun record. It's bad, but I love it. This one is not fun.
It's
22
fun.
tracks and of just oppressive scale workouts for the most part. and I don't have a whole lot to say about it. So in addition to covering this record, I'm also going to talk a little bit about what was going on in the Black Flag sphere at that time, and that includes the other Black Flag known as Flag, which was a bunch of ex-members of Black Flag for the most part that had got together and went out on tour playing the hits, and that didn't make Greg too happy.
Go get a lawyer right now. Let's have it out. I am not going to piss around with you about this.
Also, we're going to be talking about the record and band that he had put out at the same time. I think it was like a week before he put out another record called Good For You, Life's Too Short to Not Hold a Grudge. And that was with pro skater Mike Vallely on vocals. And how much different these two records are. Not that the Good For You record is perfect, certainly not. But by comparison, it brings up a lot of weird questions. So let's talk a little bit about the lineup. Greg Ginn on guitar, obviously. Dale Nixon on bass, which is, of course, Greg Ginn on bass. Singer is?
Ron Reyes.
Right, and who is Ron Reyes?
He's one of the original singers. He wasn't the original singer. Was he the second singer?
I think so. There might have been someone before that, but as far as like who got recorded, yeah. He also played in Red Cross at one point really early on. He ended up getting kicked out of the band pretty unceremoniously. I believe the story goes, and this is my memory, it's probably not totally factual, but
A lot of times the accuracy of some of this stuff comes into question.
he moved to Vancouver and became a Jehovah's Witness. He had married a Jehovah's Witness girl, and they hated him for it. That's why he's named Chavo Pederast on the first 4 years, or Everything Went Black. I think Everything Went Black. One of those records, he's named as Chavo Pederast and not Ron Reyes. But anyway, I guess they put their past behind them, and he's on this record. Longtime Greg Ginn associate Greg A. Moore plays drums. Greg has played with Greg for years. He had been in a later version of Gone by like maybe 94, 95, and had been playing with him right up to this point. He got trashed a lot by people when Black Flag toured as not being very good, and I guess that was it. He hasn't played with him since. It's 22 tracks long. Most of the songs are 2 minutes or less. There's a few that are over 2 minutes and one that clocks in at over 3 minutes. Let's get into what this record sounds like. What was your first impression upon hearing What The?
After hearing the entire album, I felt like it was 21 tracks that were approximately the same, and then the very last track was the only one that showed any difference. But the first 21 just felt like a formula just churned out.
Yeah. My feeling on it is that there's a lot of looping going on here. I could be wrong on that. I wasn't there. But
Well, I'm sorry, I was there.
it feels like it was all culled from a jam session. This isn't something that's all that strange. I love Can, the German band Can, and all their stuff was done like that. They had their own studio, and they just do these jams, and then they'd cut parts out that sounded good, and then loop those, and then work from there. I feel like that's what was going on in this record, because thematically, the songs all have these like ascending progressions. Also, you were complaining a lot about the guitar, the riffs in particular.
Yeah, so I wasn't familiar with this term. Mars told me about tremolo picking, but everything in the album sounds like and this kind of like just single note kind of.
Yeah, and it's all ascending, and so everything has a very samey feel. I mean, it's not all single notes, but it definitely has a lot of tremolo picking, but not like black metal tremolo picking. This is a lot more like surf music, but it's not surf because it's Greg. It's all these scales. I don't know if you're familiar with their final record, The Last Time, In My Head, but In My Head had a lot of like these queasy like kind of feel to the songs. Definitely not catchy, and I feel like this is similar to that. Not so much the going up and coming down, but like, and this forces Ron to sing basically the same kind of structure in each song. It's just bad and it's boring. That's the biggest sin of this, is that there are no hooks. It's just boring. There's some really cool ideas and there are a few pretty good songs, but they're kind of like, who cares? At 22 tracks, they're there and then they're gone and replaced by another song that's basically the same. Like the bass and the guitar are both doing these tremoloed, like, I don't know if he thinks it's funk or what, but it's not interesting. It's just not interesting.
For me, from like a songwriting perspective, I feel like a lot of the riffs are riffs that you would use to build tension, but they never resolve into like anything that's satisfying.
Right.
There's no release of it.
Well, that I think comes from somewhat of my theory that they're doing loops, because when the chorus is hit, there's no riff logic being used. Now, if you don't know what riff logic is, there's certain notes and chords that are complementary to other ones to your ear. Now, granted, you could say that that ends up creating cliches, and that's absolutely true, but it also creates hooks and things that are catchy and satisfying. This record does not do that. When a chorus comes, it's like a totally different part that has no relation to the part before it, that's just slapped in there. And sometimes it'll be with a tempo change that doesn't work. It'll like kill the momentum of a song, or it'll just be this neck break kind of change. And look, I'm all for like awkward progressive rock, math rock kind of moves, but these are not that. It's not clever. It just sounds lazy, like they really threw it together. Let's get into that. Why do you think they threw it together?
I'd have to go back and look at the timeline, but there was this whole back and forth between them and the members of Flag.
There was a lawsuit.
I think he sued them, but I think he sued them unsuccessfully. I'm not sure, but I think he lost that.
I'm going to sue your ass.
Because obviously Flag kept touring. And so I think he wanted to do a concurrent tour as like, okay, Flag went out, but I'm going to show you the real Black Flag. I'm the real Black Flag. And I kind of feel like this album was just thrown out there to have something maybe to sell, or just something to say like, look, I'm Black Flag. I'm the only one who has the right to put out an album that has Black Flag on it.
I have a feeling that this was all music that wasn't even intended to be Black Flag. It was just something else, because Greg has never stopped making music. A lot of you out there probably haven't heard a damn thing he's done since the early 90s, but he's never stopped making music, and music has been coming out. In 2015, I think, I went and tried to listen to everything he had done since quitting Black Flag up to the then current time. And I couldn't do it because there was so much. So, I mean, this guy will put out like some shit that he did by himself in his garage. I mean, he just never stops. So
now the hilarious thing for me is, if you want to throw together an album in a short amount of time, fair game, that's fine. But the fact that he threw on 22 tracks on what felt like a throwaway album is kind of hilarious. It's like the songs are so generic, but none of them could have been called. It's like, no, all of these tracks have to go on the album, or else the statement will not be complete.
To be honest, in my review of this record on Rate Your Music, I actually culled the record down to like, I think 9 songs. And not all of those are great, but they're better than the other ones. And even at that, it feels too damn long. Yeah, it feels like it was just random. Greg has never been good about editing himself. If he was, some of those records that he put out, like Killer Tweaker Bees, they would never have come out. He just enjoy them for himself. Not everybody needs to hear everything, right? Let's get into Ron's performance on this.
I felt like his vocals were mixed too low. I assume that was because Greg was the one sitting at the controls, or if not sitting at the controls, then he was the one telling and
whomever
who's
was
going to
engineering.
mix it.
Yeah.
Because the guitars are way too loud. I could barely hear the drums, and I could barely hear Ron's vocals on some of this. His vocals were really straining to match the guitars. And because of that, the vocals just seem like kind of throwaway vocals.
Yeah. His delivery is kind of, it settles into this like, kind of bratty sound. It alternates between that and, I hate to say it, but it sounds like he's doing a really poor Danzig impression at times.
Yeah, especially on that last track.
On the last track especially. But we're going to get into that last track in a bit too, because that's an interesting thing. Let's get into the cover. I'm sure you could probably find it anywhere you look, but it's horrible. It's such a bad, shitty cover. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cool in how fucking awful it is, but it doesn't really say Black Flag. It kind of looks like you'd expect a Green Day bootleg would have this cover.
Totally.
It looks like a kid that really likes South Park that drew it like real quick on MS Paint and then threw every filter that they could on top of it. He's got like pink hair, a green tongue. He's giving the heavy metal sign with his hands. You know, the sign of the devil, the hooked, your pinky and your forefinger. It's goofy. And he's like spitting, and then there's just like slime effects in the background, but they're really poorly realized.
So, millions of people have dunked on this online, but this is probably the worst album cover that I've ever seen. I am hard-pressed to think of a worse album cover.
I mean, I'm sure I've seen worse, but this is in the top 10 of bad album covers.
You could have literally gone with just a solid color and it would be a better album cover.
Absolutely. So it says Black Flag in the typical Black Flag font. It's got the bars on the right-hand side. The title is that generic stencil, like a military stencil, and it says, "What the ... I don't know if the what the is aimed at the music all being kind of the same, or the horrible record cover, which apparently was Ron Reyes. I mean, Ron's not an artist, clearly. Why did they let him do this?
It's kind of embarrassing.
Obviously, they can't get Raymond Pettibone because Greg and his brother Raymond hate each other and will never talk to each other again. So that wasn't going to happen, but they have a huge fan base. They could have found somebody that could have come up with something pretty fucking good. Now, granted, Greg probably wouldn't want to pay them.
How much do you make per month as a performer?
Pretty much nothing.
Negative.
Negative, yeah.
But Greg could have said, hey, I'm not going to pay you. You want to make a cover? And someone out there with skills would have said yes. They didn't have to commit this. It's so bad.
Yeah, someone would have done it for the exposure.
Yes, well, right, exactly. Yeah, think about the future jobs you'll get from this, right? I guess good songs. This Is Hell. Go Away. The Chase. That's about it.
I like that there was a Go Away and a Get Out of My Way.
Yep, yeah. There was This Is Hell, and I think there's a To Hell and Back.
Yeah.
Those are two different songs.
I like to think that maybe Ron was, trying to really express that being in the band was like hell.
Yeah, going through the recording process. So they put out 3 preview tracks. They've been listed as singles. They're not really singles. Hardly anybody heard these. I did. The first single was Down in the Dirt. Not the greatest, not the worst on the record. But there's another song later on that you can literally sing Down in the Dirt over, which we enjoy doing. The song Outside. Why did you put that on there? If it's that similar, why did you do that? You didn't need to do that. It diminishes the other song. By putting a song that sounds just like it, you're diminishing that other song, which wasn't great to begin with, but now it's really bad because it's got a clone on the same record. Greg has an obsession with theremin, okay? A theremin, if you don't know, is the first synthesized instrument. It was made by Leon Theremin, I think in the early 1900s. He was a radio repairman, and he actually made it by accident. He noticed that there was a whining pitch that would escalate in pitch when he got close to it, and then would pitch down when he walked away from it. He was able to make a machine that just did that and had a volume bar, and you could actually make it sound, if you were good, by waving your hands through the air, you could make this thing sing, basically. It's the first synthesizer. It's not totally foreign in rock music. Led Zeppelin used it. It's not foreign in noisy punk rock music. John Spencer Blues Explosion used one to great effect in the early 90s. Greg doesn't really use it in any way that sounds very interesting. He doesn't sound like he really knows how to play it. It's just, sometimes it sounds like a cop siren, which coming from Greg is like, why would you want to put that on your record when you hate the cops? Rightfully so, but you hate the police. Why are you making this sound all the time? It's obnoxious.
Well, I will say that, Black Flag, they did use a siren once before in a police story. But then they go right into trashing the police. So there was a context for the siren.
Yeah.
For me, I always associate the theremin with sci-fi, so it just seems completely out of place for Black Flag to be using a theremin.
Yeah, and they use it a lot on this record. We both went to the show from this tour, and it was terrible. It was weird. I'll say I enjoyed that it was weird, but there was way too much theremin going on. Ron seemed to not really enjoy it. The venue we saw it at was the Old Masquerade in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, the way that this place was configured was it had 3 levels, and they were in hell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there was hell, or purgatory, hell, heaven, right? Black Flag were playing in hell. Now, there's a VIP area to the right of the stage. That had a bunch of middle-aged dudes who were probably, big fans when they were kids. But they're, just maybe a little too old to be in the pit. I get it. So they have their little tables out there, and they got their trophy girls and whatnot. And one of the ladies decides that she wants to crowd surf. So she gets up there, and she's got like heels on and stuff. They're playing a song. Ron holds her purse, and they gingerly help her onto the audience, and she gets like surfed around a little bit on top of the audience, then put back. There's nothing wrong with that, but it really was kind of goofy and not very punk rock. It was embarrassing. The whole thing was kind of embarrassing. It was not good. And if I had any doubts that it was not good, we saw them last year on a current tour with Mike Vallely singing, and it was really good. It was really good. So, no theremin.
Yeah, no theremin.
They did a discography run, basically. None of the stuff off of it was what you wanted to hear, with a few surprises. It was fucking great. So they clearly learned their lesson from this. I don't know if they're ever going to put out another record, but yeah, this was bad. Okay, so let's get into that last song. 22 tracks. The last song is produced completely different than any of the other songs. You can tell that it's live because the drums actually feel alive, and there's fills. There's hardly any drum fills at all on this record, which leads me to believe that it's looped. It's very odd and unnatural. Ron is singing on it, and it's totally different. He sounds like he's doing a straight-up Danzig impression. It's very fucking weird. The reason I bring this up is because that is off of the Good For You record. Why they didn't just make that Black Flag, I don't know. I don't think I have anything else to say about this. We're going to leave a playlist in here. I would have had these songs put in here. I still don't know about copyright.
I own it or I control it.
Greg, of course, is a copyright monster.
You either have no ability to use this for any purpose whatsoever.
I don't know how many people out there were paying attention to YouTube 10 years ago, but there was a good long while where there was no punk shit on YouTube, because Greg did this weird thing where there was a cease and desist on pretty much anything punk rock. I don't know how he did that, but I remember things getting taken down at the request of SST Records, which was absurd.
You want to challenge me?
So I'm not going to fuck with him. There is this record, if you want to hear it, is on here, so I'll leave a link to that. I will also leave a link to some Good For You stuff, which you can hear is totally different. It's not the weird. I mean, it's actually pretty fucking hilarious. The lyrics are very funny. And you can check all that stuff out. And yeah, I think that's it. You got anything you want to add?
I think that's it.
Jeez. Okay. I love you, folks. We'll be back with another one probably next week. Some of the episodes we got coming up, we got, let's see, RTX with their 2007 record, Western Exterminator. We've got Kenneth Higney with Attic Demonstrations. We've got Discharge with Grave New World. We've got Holocausto with Campo de Exterminio. And, other stuff. We'll let you vote on some of them. If you want to hit up the Twitter, it's going to be at capital N, music, capital B, ROK, broke. Okay? I didn't come up with that. Twitter did that to me. I hope you enjoyed yourself. So, see you later, motherfuckers.
Brokamotor. Level buffering.
9.
I love Can, the German band Can. I love Can, the German band Can. I love Can, the German band Can.